This is Back Roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We're glad you're here on a Thursday afternoon for today. I am joining with duwany Bussey from Bold Marketing LLC, and then I am joining with Chris Edgerton from Iowa and former president National Corn Growers Association. Here's duwany Bussey from Bold Marketing on Back Roads of Illinois. We were talking about the planting progress in South Dakota with duwany Bussey from Bold Marketing LLC. Of course, we were talking about the commodities too as well. duwany, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Sun is finally back out and shining. That makes everyone feel a little bit better. It's been a cold, rainy spell here lately.
Hope you're done with the planting.
I it it went really well early on. Like some of the best conditions I've ever farmed into, and same for the rest of South Dakota and North Dakota. And then about 10, 14 days ago, we got some rain, quite a bit of rain actually. And then after the heavy rains, it got very cold. So we had to take kind of a break about, I think it was 10, 11 days for me until I could get back out in the tractor. But just got going yesterday and today. We actually are going to go out and plant one more quarter of corn. I think my partner is about done with that now. And then we've got some more beans to go finish up on. But I think for the most part, a lot of people are wrapping up in the Dakotas, at least before Tuesday when we've got some more rain in the forecast. But we got a good forecast from now until then. So I think a lot of corn, soybean planting, even spring wheat, I think will get wrapped up by then.
Of course, but we were cooler than average for this week in central Illinois and wet.
Yep, they are. I know that's kind of the interesting thing, So up here in the Dakotas, we usually have prevent plant. And I've been talking all winter that with our dry open winter, I thought maybe prevent plant acres would be down. And I think I'm right on that. I think prevent plant acres are down in the Dakotas, down maybe almost sharply. But then maybe it shifted. Southern Illinois is cold and wet. Ohio, the planting progress is behind the 5-year average. I talked to a broker on Monday from Illinois, and he thought that the farmers in Southern Illinois would plant for 2 more weeks. So maybe one more week from today or so, say that they'd keep going. If watching the forecast, I mean, they got a little window opening here and there, but it's not like it's straight going. So it'll be very interesting to watch Southern Illinois to see if they get that planted. Ohio, I almost kind of feel like, wow, they're probably going to end up with some prevent plant acres this year for sure. Now, remember, we usually average like 4.5 million acres of prevent plant in the nation. And without the Dakotas having much, which we'll have some, it just isn't going to be like normal. I still think that average is going to be below normal, which means there might be a few more acres available for corn and soybeans yet.
I don't know about the prevention planting in southern Illinois, but in northern Illinois, crop is emerging.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's popping up and looking pretty good there, I bet. But crop conditions report this week was quite interesting. Um, I assumed in the Dakotas it wouldn't turn out very well, and Illinois was okay. Iowa was very good. The reason it didn't turn out really well in the Dakotas is because of the cold temperatures I mentioned. So the corn that was up, yellow, stunted, and some of it just the leaves burned off and died. We were really close to a frost the last time you and I talked, and I think we avoided the frost, but we did not avoid the extreme weathers. We had 91 degrees before the rain, and then the cold, and some of the corn just almost had to start over again. So it doesn't look the best here. in the Dakotas right now, and really for the nation. I mean, the nation was lower crop conditions reports than normal. But that being said, the agronomist in me and the farmer in me wants to point out that even our corn that got burnt off and started over, basically, it still has full yield potential at this point in time, and it still can make maturity rather early yet too from now. So at least that's all the studies I've shown. So the crop conditions in the Dakotas are poor right now. I mean, like 50% good to excellent, which isn't a great, and to be honest with you, I think it's worse than that. But in 2 weeks, it could completely bounce back and be 75, 76% good to excellent. All we need is sun and heat. And boy, we're going to get that the next 3 days, followed up with an inch of rain. So next time we talk, I might be talking about conditions being perfect in the Dakotas. So I hate going back and forth on guys, but that's why the crop conditions were poor this week.
Of course. Let's discuss about these grains markets, especially with the fundamentals. What is your thoughts on the fundamentals?
Yeah, well, honestly, the fundamentals are confusing me a little bit. When I think of fundamentals, I always go to corn supply and demand. And when I look at that, I look at last year's old crop S&D for corn, and USDA has us, at a low stocks to use ratio and a low carryout. Right now, what are they forecasting? 1.415 billion. That's a tight stock situation. I've got export demand up another 100 million bushels. And when I make some other adjustments, I've got my ending stock at 1.362. So that fundamental news is very bullish. But where I'm confused is the way the trade acts. If we're really that tight and USDA is right on the ending stock, July corn should be leading September, should be leading December corn, not bear spread like it has been recently. So I kind of wonder and a little bit nervous that maybe eventually USDA goes back and increases the yield last year, the national yield, which was what, 179.3, I believe, that might be above 180. That's really the only way I can come up with why these bear spreads are hammering the market so much this July contract. Like I said, if we were really tight and elevators were concerned about losing or not getting corn to harvest, the July corn should be gaining on September or gaining on December. So that's my fundamental news for the corn market. And that's why I'm confused. The trade action doesn't suggest USDA numbers are correct. And we're going to find out in the end who's right and wrong.
How is the reflection on the technical aspects of the corn and beans doing?
Yeah, not great, to be honest with you. On corn right now, the chart pattern doesn't look good. We kind of broke some moving averages in yesterday's trade, and then today we just accelerated those losses down. Psychological thing is getting July corn below 450. I'd like to see that back above 450. D's corn 441, not good either. But both those markets are about 10 cents away from well, not contract lows, but recent lows from last month. In my opinion, those lows should hold, but that'll depend on the weather moving forward. For soybeans, if you don't mind, I'll jump there too. Technically, we kind of broke what I've got drawn on my charts as an upward trend line for July beans. We broke that yesterday and then, struggled with some moving day averages today. But we recovered nicely into the close. The bean market, we got to remember the fundamentals there are actually fairly tight for new.
Do you have any concerns about the R word with the consumer budget?
I, yeah, I do. You know, I don't know. It's hard to say. I've been calling for a pullback in the economy for quite some time, but yet everything just seems to, everyone keeps spending and growing. And so maybe I'm wrong, but there has been some talk that the consumer index came out this week and showed that our economy pulled back just a little bit the first quarter. I am concerned with the price of everything, tariffs, this, that, too. I am just a little bit worried. The thing that makes me think our economy could stay strong is if we keep this gas price this low. But gas stocks I see today in today's report were very low, so maybe the gas price of gas has to start to go up. But yeah, I'm concerned moving forward if people can spend the money on the higher price cuts of beef. It's actually part of the reason why I really like the lean hog market here. Cash and cutouts have been increasing lately. Yes, the June and July boards are above 100 now, but that might just be a pause here before they make one more leg higher. 106, 107 area wouldn't shock me at all. Right now, it's a cheaper protein source. And then remember, Brazil's dealing with the bird flu issue too. So poultry will be a little bit more expensive. They're the number one exporter of poultry in the world. So, man, so many moving parts, even in the livestock market here today.
Sure. I've been traveling for this week. The gas prices are currently lower.
hmm And I like that. I've got a son in baseball, and it seems like we'll be traveling all over the place soon playing baseball games,
Uh,
which I absolutely love. But yeah, I do like the cheaper gas prices for sure.
uh,
Do you have any final thoughts on the planting progress in South Dakota?
Yeah, I'll just like to reiterate again that I think it's going to wrap up pretty well this week. I mean, it depends on your location, right? But most guys appear to be done already. So the guys that are left, they fly across the fields pretty fast. I think they'll get it done. The biggest thing, biggest takeaway for me being a broker up in this area is to tell you that prevent plant acres are going to be down sharply in the Dakotas. Uh, I don't know what that means nationwide because I'm not in southern Illinois or the Ohio Valley to tell you how bad it is there, but they will be down sharply here. So that doesn't, I don't know if that totally gets calculated in the June 30th final acreage report, but it has to weigh in on it somehow, some way. So yeah, to me, we could have more acres out there. Just need sun and heat, and I could grow a nice crop yet this year.
Where people can find good more information on your financial services?
Yeah, they can call us directly 605-448-2365, or they could check us out online at boltmarketingllc.com.
Thanks, duwany.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We've been having a conversation about the
no,
planting progress in the commodities on back roads of Illinois. We'll talk about the planting progress in Iowa with Chris Edgerton from Iowa and former president, National Corn Growers Association. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, Caesar.
How was your corn planting progress, Chris?
It went well. We started May 5th and finished on May 19th.
How is the weather in northern Iowa?
So we've actually been cool, but they say we have some warm weather coming and we need some heat for the crops. No question.
We were talking about the RVO in Washington, D.C. for right now. Chris, what is your thoughts on the RVO?
Well, that's a great question. Um, we need an RVO. We need some certainty. Agriculture, the liquid fuels industry, needs some certainty from the EPA on where we're going for the next couple years. And they keep finding reasons to not come out with a number yet. They they have been behind for a long time, and they're still behind on giving us some certainty in the liquid fuels market.
What happened with the 45Z guidance line or simply SAF?
So, the 45Z is tied up in the tax bill. It's still part of it. It's still in there. That it came out of the House and is now over in the Senate. I think agriculture is optimistic that it will stay in there, as it provides some new avenues to agriculture for showing the progress we make on the way we farm today compared to the way we farmed 25 or 30 years ago.
It is pretty confused with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. There's a fair amount of confusion. There has been for the whole time because there's lots of mixed signals being presented to the liquid fuels industry and American agriculture.
Sure. What's next for the top priority for the NCG? A.
Well, obviously, the NCGA would like to see the the bill passed that came out of the House and is now at the Senate because we need to get a farm bill passed. And until they get this tax bill passed, the farm bill is not going to pass. And we're already more than 2 years behind on the farm bill. They keep, extending it a year at a time. And it would be nice to get a 5-year farm bill passed so that can get off the table. And, tariffs are always a concern, and there are lots of mixed signals when it comes to tariffs as well. And we even heard of more mixed signals. I think it was yesterday from the courts, and they are now weighing in on the tariffs. So lots of challenges out there.
What are you watching for trade front?
Well, the corn trade has been really pretty good. We are exporting a good amount of corn, something that we needed to do, but the tariffs could change that. And we're even exporting corn to some countries that don't normally buy a lot from us. So that's some real positive growth that both NCGA and the U.S. Grains Council have worked on, as well as the USDA. But uncertainty in the markets is never good for exports, and so we need some certainty around what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, we will see for next couple weeks ahead.
Well, correct. I mean, the last I heard, the Senate was hoping to pass this bill by the 4th of July. And once they get it passed, if they make a lot of changes, then it has to go back to the House. So it does not appear that there will be a lot that gets done on a lot of fronts until that bill gets done.
Do you have any final thoughts on this growing season?
I'm optimistic. For the most part, the corn crop and the soybean crop got in pretty well. There are some areas that are challenged: Ohio, Kentucky, parts of Indiana, Illinois, maybe a little bit of Missouri, where they've just had too much water. But the rest of the country looks pretty good. So we will grow a pretty good corn crop that will be able to meet all of the demand, whether it's domestic or international, which is always good. Always like to have product to sell to our customers. So I'm starting out pretty optimistic on the growing side. Um, pretty, I think it could be a really challenging year as we prepare for next year on the inputs. Fertilizer prices are high. Does not sound like they're going to have any summer lows. Um, and this whole international trade tariff challenge um, could really affect some decisions that are made this fall by farmers and what they do.
Sure. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome, Caesar. Anytime.
This is Chris Edgerton from Iowa and former president, National Corn Growers Association on back roads of Illinois. Thanks to duwany Bussey from Bold Marketing LLC and Chris Edgerton from Iowa and former president, National Corn Growers Association. This been back roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. You have a good day.